Hey YouTube, what's happening? Chris here. I want to bring you a little update on Litecoin. Right now it's April 9th, 2019, and it's about 11:29 a.m. Eastern Time. So guys, I'm going to be digging into Litecoin. I want to show you some key areas, some key overhead resistance, some of the things that I'm seeing and that we're dealing with right now. And what we're going to be doing, we're looking at Litecoin right now on the 3-day chart. We're probably going to get into the 1-day chart a little bit, maybe work our way down, but I really want to focus on this 3-day chart. A lot of people don't pay enough attention to the 3-day chart, and I think it's very critical to really look at this and see some key overhead resistances that we have been dealing with. So if you guys like what we do here, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. We're trying for 100 likes on this video. Can't do it without each and every one of you. You guys have been great. I appreciate all the comments and all the love. So what I did here, guys, I took from our high down to our low. So our swing high all the way up here, and this is the macro that we're looking at. Swing high to swing low. And what we're having now, guys, we're making that move back up. So we started that short-term uptrend, then it turned to the intermediate-term uptrend, and that's where we're at right now. But what we're running into is this 200-day moving average in pink on the 3 days, and that's actually where we saw rejection. We wicked up through it, and let me zoom in here for you. And guys, if you do some studying about Fibonacci, the 0.236 in terms of this retracement here coming back up now, having this reaction, this right up here around $115 is a very difficult area to get up above. All right, so the 0.236, a lot of times you'll see these charts bounce off it a few times before we finally break up above it and close up above it. So that's one major sign that I need to see, is for us to get up above, number one, that 200-day moving average on the 3-day, and then also that 0.236 of the reaction here moving back up. So, do you see this wick here? That's profit taking. Here's profit taking. We closed below it, and here we're actually falling down below this today, and this is that 200-day moving average. Remember, that's that longer-term moving average that a lot of long-term investors like to look at. We're up above it on the 1 day, and we're high up above it on the 1 day, which is a great thing, but we're still below it on this 3-day, and I do believe we're still below it on the 1 week as well. Let's take a look here while we're there. Guys, it's not even showing up right now on the 200 here on the week. So what we would be looking at, we have our 100, we have our 20, and we have our 50 moving average, which right now we are up above. We're actually falling right on this 100-day moving average. So we're going to see on the weekly if we're able to hold that, because what we did have here, we actually had a death cross. Do you see this 50 moving average moving and dropping down below this 100-day moving average? And that's something I want you to keep your eye on. It's just like that golden cross, but the opposite. So you're having this lesser term moving average actually cross down under this 100 here. Okay, so we have a death cross in this area, but it looks like we almost have a golden cross here of this 20 EMA over top of this 50. We're going to have to see what happens, but pay very close attention to that. And then here's our 0.236. You can see that area right here, and this is where we also found support. We had this massive fall, and then we came down here, and that's when we got our reaction. And a lot of times we'll play in between these Fibonacci's. Like this time it went from that 0.236 up to this 0.382, and then it fell back down after that. So we're going to go back to this 3-day chart. I got a few more things that I want to dig into here with you. So on the 3-day chart, guys, just keep an eye on this. We want to see if we can get back up above that and finally close up above that. We have not closed up above that in a very long time, and it's important that we do so, guys, for the health of Litecoin. So we're going to pay attention to that, and we do have some bearish volume coming in today. All right, so keep that in mind. Now what we're going to do, let's go to the 1-day chart. I want to show this to you. All right, so on the 1 day, guys, let me pull this down a little bit here. What we'll do, we're going to be looking for overhead resistances. Okay, and the overhead resistance right here would be these wicks that we have wicked up to before. All right, so right here, we actually went up to that $100. Remember, $100 is a psychological number. Any round number, $1,000, or like Bitcoin, how it got to basically $20,000 and people were taking profits. Always look for either support off those round numbers or resistance, depending on which way that you're actually going. So I'm looking at this wick here, and then we had this candle right here where we wicked up again and we saw rejection, and now we're actually getting pushed to the downside. We're going to have to see where today closes, though, because today so far, this is kind of like a little hammer candle, which it can change. There's still a lot of time, guys. There's about 8.5 hours or so left in this time period to see where we close. So are we going to get some beautiful hammer candle here and then continue to move up and try to challenge that 115, or do you feel as though we're going to have some rejection and start getting pushed back down and maybe find a bounce off this 20 EMA here at around $74? So I'm looking on the downside, I'm looking at support around $74, then I'm going to be looking for support around $60. And the reason why I say $60 is this 50 moving average, which we've gapped away from for quite a while now. What I want to see is if basically at some point we're going to come back and test that. As you can see along here, even when we gapped away from it and this downtrend, we'd come back to it. We gapped down, we came back to it. And it's going to be the same thing. We're going to have to come and back test this 20 at some point, and we're also going to have to back test this 50 at some point, just depending on what happens with this retracement. Okay, because we had such an aggressive, such a strong move to the upside. I'm going to get rid of that Fibonacci, guys. We had such a strong, aggressive move to the upside. We had massive resistance right here, and we actually just tore right through that. And the reason I said massive resistance is when we finally got up in this area, do you see all this chop here where we were going up and down? That makes for strong overhead resistance, but we found support off this 20 EMA, and we blasted to the upside up to that $100, and now we're going to have to find out where that pullback is going to take place. And I'm going to run the Fibonacci in a different angle now. So we're going to take it from our low to our high and look at potential areas. So guys, the reason why I said around that $60 as well is that kind of a hot spot for me. Let me get this white line off here so you can see better. Do you see this 0.5? So around 61, 67. That's also coinciding with that 50-day moving average, which at some point we will come back and test that, guys. I promise you. It may not be for the next week, 2 weeks, whatever, but we'll come back at some point. We're going to see if we get great volume off that and get a very strong bounce off that 50. See if we can hold that as support. That's a key. Okay, really want to keep that in mind, but that's kind of that hot spot. And if I draw a rectangle here for you, let me see, guys. I think it's this one here. Okay, so these are the areas that I would be looking at, okay, that I'm paying very close attention to, starting with this 20 moving average right down into this area, down into the 0.618. So anywhere we're going to look for bounces between $70 and around $52. You know, a lot of times, guys, that's that golden pocket, that 0.618, and we'll get strong aggressive moves off that. Okay, which would be very healthy. Even if we had a throwback, guys, all the way to $52, we would still make those higher lows, and we're still up above this yellow trend line. We're still up above the 200-day moving average. We would be up above the 100-day moving average as well, so that would be a healthy pullback. I want to see that. Is it going to happen? I'm not sure. A whale could step in right now and push this up to that $115, and we'll have to see what happens. But to the downside, I'm looking between $70 and $52.60 for a nice bounce. And on the upside, I'm looking around that $100 and then that $115 for areas to the upside that we could potentially run to. Remember, you always want to have a plan for the upside, plan for the downside. So downside plan, we're looking at the 20-day EMA. We're looking at that $70.74 around that 0.382. If we get a bounce, or that 0.5 around that $61.67. We're also off that 0.618 around that $52.60, as well as that 50-day moving average. That's going to be key for us. And then to the upside, that $100, and then I'm looking at that 115 where we'd have that 0.236 overhead macro resistance. Okay, so now what we're going to dig into, I'm going to get this Fibonacci off here now that you kind of see these levels, guys. Remember, all the books I read, that 0.382 to that 0.618, get a lot of bounces off there, especially in an uptrend. And we are in that intermediate term uptrend for Litecoin. We're looking good, guys. We're looking good. The only thing I could say is we need a little bit more of a pullback than what we're having right here. But remember, this is cryptocurrency. Anything can happen. Be prepared, okay? You know, back in the day, guys, when we were at almost $400, if someone would have said, hey, you know, in a year from now, Litecoin's going to be at $22, you would have laughed them off the face of the earth. But that's cryptocurrency. Just how, you know, in the matter of a few weeks, we could run up to $200. That's just how this game's played, especially with the halving coming up here in August, I do believe, for Litecoin, which is basically, guys, they're going to have to put in all the same effort, but they're only going to get rewarded for half the coins that they're getting now, so it's going to make Litecoin that much more valuable, in my opinion, at least. So next one we're going to look at is our RSI and see what's happening with that. Okay, so RSI, guys, you can see we're really getting that big hook right there. All right, we pushed up to around that 86, and now we're starting to see that sell-off. And what we're at a kind of a key area here where we're going to look for support. So we'd first look for support right there, which we're kind of breaking through, and then I would look for support probably down around this area, guys, around that 60 on the RSI. But the RSI is still at 70, 75, so we are overbought in this scenario. Remember, typical textbooks around that 70 is overbought. So, when we got all the way up to 86 or 87, I was kind of warning you guys, saying, a lot of smart traders, they're going to be taking some profits there, especially when you see the profit taking happening with these wicks. So it's something you always want to keep your eye on. Okay, the RSI can get very overextended to the upside and very overextended to the downside in cryptocurrency, but you still have to factor that in my opinion. Some guys say once you get in the bull market and you're having these throwbacks, the RSI doesn't really matter, but I would beg to differ with that, because I think the RSI is a very key indicator for us in this space. Next one I'm going to look at is the MACD. We're going to see what that's looking like. Okay. So MACD, guys, remember, obviously like a lot of these lagging indicators, but you're starting to see that hook now. And this hook, it's looking like we want to cross down below. 1 second, let me get my arrow out here. Okay, so we crossed that signal line, and that's when we had that huge blast to the upside. Now we're starting to hook there, and we're going to have to see if we come back and cross through this red line right here. And guys, also the histogram is ticking down to the negative side. So in terms of the MACD you're looking at, and you're saying, that's a little more in the bearish camp right now, potential for more of a bearish move just due to us starting to get that hook. Could we come down here and bounce off and then continue higher? Absolutely. Keep that on your radar, but the histogram is ticking down right now. All right, let's go to the Bollinger Bands. And these are the ones that I really like to assess, guys, that I like to sit back and say, all right, what's the Bollinger Bands looking like? What's the RSI looking like? What's the MACD looking like? What's the Fibonacci levels, the candles? What are the wicks doing? What's the volume doing? So right now we are having that decreasing volume, so our volume's following a little bit. And we were up outside of the Bollinger Bands like we talked about, and that's when we started to get some profit taking. So we're going to have to see the middle bands all the way down here around that $70. So that wouldn't be another bad spot for us to potentially get a bounce off that. And that would also coincide around right here, guys. This area right here. Remember, old resistance, you want it to become new support. So if we pulled down onto here, consolidated on this, and then made that higher high, higher lows, higher highs, that's what you want in the bull market. In the bear market, it's those lower highs and lower lows. So this move here has been very strong, and it's been since December 10th. Guys, around that, December 11th, 12th, 13th, right in here, and we have just been making those higher lows ever since. So now we're looking for that next higher low to be put in, is what I'm paying attention to, very close attention to see where we land on that one. All right, let me see if there's any other ones that I wanted to do with you guys here today. Let's go to the stock RSI. That's always a good one to pay attention to. And right now we're on the 1-day chart. We switched off of that 3-day chart. See what it gives us here. So also on the stock on the 1-day, guys, we're a little overbought there as well. You see we're at 76 and 88, and each time we've kind of hit those levels, what do? We started falling back down. Sometimes we would move up here and then we'd fall down, try it again, fall back down. So we're going to have to see what happens, but we are overextended on that. So, I start to look at these factors and say, guys, maybe there should be a little bit more of a pullback to come in the days to come. And if we throw this on the 3-day, let's see how the stock looks. So the stock up here, we had a top here, and these tops are actually getting lower, and it's looking like we actually want to roll back down a little bit, and we're at 91 and 90. So some cooling off needs to happen, guys, especially with this 200-day moving average overhead. Do not negate that. That's very strong overhead resistance. Okay, just like it's been strong support, like when we're in a bull market. Let me go back to this on the 1-day. I apologize for bouncing back and forth, guys, but it's important to see this stuff. So last time when we were in a bull market, take a look. We were up above here in pink here. We were up above it the whole time until we fell through it. We officially fell through it around May 10th is when we had that move there. And we started dropping down through. Let me pull that back up, guys. I apologize for, let me see here, for pulling that off. All right, so we'll pull that back up, our 20 or our 200 day. Very important one to have. All right. My apologies, guys. Okay, so now we're finally back up above that. For the longest time, guys, we were just cruising up above it, and then we finally lost that 200-day moving average, and we also put in tweezer tops. So this was a major sign, so for the next time something like this occurs. Tweezer tops were up here. We fell through this 200-day moving average in pink, and once we fell below that, we never came back to it until we finally got up above it right in here, guys, at the end of February. So that's what I mean. This is really, really important that we're up above it again, because this is showing that strength of that intermediate term uptrend that we're in. I wouldn't even mind, guys, down the road that if we came back and tested that again. Do we have to? No. We got up above it here, and then we came back, tested it again a little bit, moved sideways, and then we started to make this move. But for the health Litecoin, I'd love to see a back test of that, and that's going to be around, I think, guys, around that $45 or $50 right in there, and that would also coincide with this trend line, but that would definitely be down the road with how far away we are from that right now. It would really take a massive candle just to really start dropping us to the downside, and a lot of times you don't just fall, especially when you're in an uptrend like this. You just won't see a massive fall down to that area in a day or two. It's crypto, anything can happen, but traditionally you're not going to have that. And we're also paying attention to this golden cross right here. So this 100 is crossing over the 200-day moving average as well. But I love that we've been up above this 200-day moving average, guys, and just blasting up above it. I mean, that's at 45.37 and we're at 87.55. So that buys us a lot of time here to continue this uptrend, even if we do have that throwback or pullback. Okay, so now let's get into the lower time frames. So we did the 3-day, we looked at the week a little bit, we looked at the 1 day. You can see where we're at here. We're going to pay attention to the close today. If we have some beautiful hammer, if this actually just turns into a nastier candle and we start closing down in this area where we wick to, we're going to have to pay attention to that. See what we look like on the 12-hour. Remember, this is what I like to do. I like to go through the 1 day, the 12-hour, then go down to the 8-hour, the 4-hour. You guys, right now this is not loading really well for me. Let me try another time frame. Alright, guys, well, I apologize. Apparently my computer or something froze up right there. This charting service froze up on me. So we'll just end it right there. I apologize for that. I don't know what's going on. Here, let's try it one more time. Let's just see. Alright, there we go. So do you see all these wicks up here? That's rejection. You had doji candles up there. We had a little hammer that's tried up here, but we're not getting follow through. So this is looking a little more bearish. It almost looks like one of those scallops. If you study scallops, pay attention to those. And then we go to the 8-hour. So 8-hour, we're wanting to find a little support off this 20 EMA there at around $85.57. Then I'll go down to the 4-hour. Looks like we're losing the 20 EMA right here in orange on the 4-hour, and we're trying to find support off the 50. And then let's go down to the hour. Alright, so hour, there's a lot of fight. We actually may come back here and test this 200-day on the hour, guys. We're having a death cross above us, and we're below the 50 and the 100 moving average on the 1 hour. So sometimes those are hard to get up above. But, you know, remember, Bitcoin's the main driver of this market, guys. Pay very close attention to Bitcoin, and also pay attention to this candle close today. I can't emphasize that enough. We're going to have to see if we push back up and close higher than this candle, or if we continue to just get pushed down to the downside. So these are things I'm going to be keeping my eye on, guys. Not a ton of movement. That's why there's just not a ton to talk about right now. We're going to have to wait to see if we get a little more volatility, but some of the things have just been in those bot territory, and it looks like we do need that cool down, which we've been talking about. I mean, obviously we've cooled down from $100 here down to 87, but, you know, just prepare yourself for a little bit lower on the downside. I have some buy orders down there around that $60. I think that could be a good area, and that's a good area that I would like, or I would feel more confident if we do have good volume to go long off that area for the next move up if we do end up getting down to that area. So guys, that's what I'm looking at. God bless each and every one of you. I appreciate you being here. I'm going to try to get out one more video today, potentially about falling wedges out of the Encyclopedia of Chart Patterns by Thomas Bulkowski. I got about 10 great facts, all the percentages, everything. So keep an eye out for that. May be able to get that one done today. So if you like what we do here, guys, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. God bless each and every one of you. Take care, my friends.